everyone, it's Nina. Thanks so much for stopping by today. Today I'm over at the Neat and Tangled blog with this fun, layered, and dimensional card. I'm going to be sharing with you a technique on creating dimensional die cuts, so let's get started. So here I've got the Perfect Blend stamp set. I just love all of the different images included in this set. This was released back in January, and this has just become one of my favorites. I love all of the outline images that you can color. It's really fun. So to create my dimensional die cuts, I'm going to be using some craft foam and also some cardstock. I'm putting adhesive on the back side of this craft foam and I'm going to attach it down to my cardstock. This is going to give me a perfect way to be able to get dimensional die cuts. So I'm going to grab my stamp and I've got that mounted onto a clear block here. I'm going to be stamping this in Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. I love this ink for any of my Copic coloring and watercoloring. It's perfect black and also stamps crisp. I'm going to be stamping this directly onto that cardstock, and because this is completely covered with that craft foam, it's a completely level surface for me to be able to go ahead and just stamp my image right down onto the paper. So now I'm going to take one of the images that fit inside that little coffee mug, and I'm going to be stamping this in some Altenew dark chocolate ink. I love this dye ink. It's a beautiful dark brown, and the Altenew inks stamp really nice and crisp. So I'm going to ink that up and I'm going to go ahead and fit that in. Sorry about my head, I had to make sure I got this in the right place and lined it up. So then once I did that, I pressed that down good. And then I'm going to go ahead and start my Copic coloring. I'm going to fill in some of the areas of this stamped image here because I wanted to have some shading. So I'm going to use some browns and I'm going to fill that coloring in. And I'm also going to add a little bit of shading around the outside edges of the mug. Moving on to the mug itself and also the little saucer, I'm going to go ahead and start adding in some purple colors. I'm going to have all the colors that I'm using listed on the side of the screen so you can easily replicate the color combinations. I'm going to go ahead and finish the Copic coloring here, and then I'll be back when we start the next step of the process. Alright, so here we go. We've got our image all colored in. I love all the shading that we've added in. And now I've got the coordinating die. See that point on the tip of the die? That lines up perfectly on the tip of the saucer. And that's what's going to make sure that you get a perfect die cut. You just line those two pieces up and run it through your machine. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So here it is all cut out. Look how perfectly we've got some nice even dimension on this die cut. This is perfect. Then all we have to do is put some adhesive on the back side and we're good to go. No need for foam tape. Now I also thought I needed to add in some little flowers with this, so I'm going to quickly color these. These are from the hand-stitched stamp set. I love this stamp set, and I also have the coordinating dies. We'll be using that to cut this flower out. I ended up stamping it twice because I didn't like the first impression that I got, so I go ahead and stamp it again, and now I'm just going to color these in quickly with my Copic markers. So I'll color this in, and then we'll come back on the next step. Alright, so I got that all colored in. I'm going to take the coordinating die, I'll just fit that on top and go ahead and cut it out with my machine. Here I've got a 4 1/4 by 11 inch piece of cardstock. I'm going to score it at 5 1/2 inches to create an A2 size card base. This is a Martha Stewart mini scoring board, and I love this board because it's perfect size for card making. I'm going to go ahead and fold my cardstock over, and then we'll go ahead and start working on some of the other portions of the card. I've also die cut a little panel here from a My Favorite Things cross stitch rectangle die set. I'm using my mug here to line up where I'm going to want the sentiment. So I'm just kind of playing around with the placement, and I'm also going to be eventually stamping those hearts in the next step. First, I'm going to work on the sentiment. I'm using my Misty tool to make sure I get that perfect placement. I'm going to prep the surface with my EK Success powder tool and stamp in Versamark ink. I love the Misty tool because it's perfect for getting your perfect placement of anything you're stamping, and you can always restamp if you don't stamp it right the first time. So I'll go ahead and stamp that sentiment down, and then I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss this with some platinum embossing powder. Now on a piece of vellum, I'm going to quickly prep that and stamp that little heart image that you saw previously. I'm going to stamp that in some Versamark ink and heat emboss this with white embossing powder. This is going to be the little steam coming from the little coffee mug. I love this little heart stack. It's super, super cute and perfect for adding that little finishing touch to your card. Alright, so here I've got some pattern paper from My Mind's Eye, and I love this mint color. It's so pretty. I'm running this through my die cutting machine with a My Favorite Things border die. It's got a double stitch border die, and I'm running this through multiple times until I get all sides of this panel die cut with those stitching lines. It adds a nice finishing touch to the panel. Alright, so I've attached that down on an angle. I'm going to go ahead and trim those edges off of my card base. This is a double-sided print, so you can see the gold on the back side. It has this pattern paper pack has some really nice gold foiling in it, and I really love the colors. All the products that I'm using today are listed in the video description below and also over on the Neat and Tangled blog. Alright, so here I've got another cross-stitched panel that I created from that same die set. I'm going to be layering all these pieces on top of each other just like this to give it some nice beautiful dimension and also some interest. My little coffee mug is going to sit right there on the top, and I'm going to layer that little flower cluster right there on top of that coffee mug. I love how this layers up together. It's really cute. Once I have everything attached, I'm going to go ahead and cut a slit along the top of my card. I'm going to be feeding a ribbon through this, and this is the nice easy way to be able to get your ribbon through the card when you're creating a top folding card like I am here. So I'm just going to feed this through, and this is some purple satin ribbon, it's 1/2 inch wide. If I had been thinking, I would have put the ribbon on first before I attached all those papers down, but I didn't, so it's kind of an afterthought, and I'm just quickly peeling those back so that I can slip this underneath. Then I'll just tie it into a little knot bow. I just quickly did an overhand knot and then do a second overhand knot, and that just creates a nice little finishing touch to the card. Speaking of finishing touches, I needed to add a little bit of glitter because all cards need some sparkle and shine. So I'm just using some Wink of Stella glitter and applying that on top of the coffee mug, and then I used some glossy accents and put that on top of some of the little smaller accents on this card. So that's going to do it for me. I hope you've enjoyed. Be sure to stop over at the Neat and Tangled blog where you can get more information on this card, including the products used. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments section below. And also, if you've enjoyed this video, here's another one you might be interested in featuring Neat and Tangled products. Thanks so much for stopping by. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and we'll see you again soon.